Northmen actors. We all know here that the actors of The Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies got special training. So what was your special training as Vikings, except from plundering and raping?
Well, hello everyone. I'm not a Viking. I'm a Carpathian mercenary. So I guess you asked the question to the Vikings. Carpathian mercenaries are naturally trained, ripped. I don't know what the Vikings did. I'd pass you to the two. Oh, you guys are Vikings. Carpathians don't like Vikings.
I think Tom was born like this. I had to gain 16 kilos mass for the role and learned a special technique for archery.
Apart from being born like this, I had to do a lot of broadsword training. I'd done previous sword fighting work on the jobs I'd done, but the sword on this movie my sword was a lot bigger than previous things. He got it. So there was some extra training for that. But yeah, that was the main piece of extra stuff we did.
I know that Ringcon is all about having a fun weekend, yet for you it also entails a little bit of work. You have to go out on stage, which is probably a little bit different from, you know, being in a stage play where you have to perform as a character. So I would like to know, do you have to deal with stage fright? Do you prepare anything for appearing here and performing on Ringcon?
I love going to conventions. I think it's great. Seeing the size of that stage definitely made me a tad nervous. But you know, getting back on stage is something I actually really like to do. My job as an actor. So I guess I'm getting to fulfill that dream right now. Yeah, this is mine. Oh right, you're actually doing that. Oh, projection.
Hello.
This is my third year at Ringcon, and it's always a highlight coming back. It's so much fun. The community is really great here. It's a really good vibe, and I always think it's not really about us. It's about like everyone coming together and just having a good time, and just be a part of that. It's wicked. So yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah, no, I agree. there is a degree of stage fright. Sitting on stage for an hour in front of a lot of people by yourself could be quite awkward if nobody's confident. So there is always that. But you know, we've never had that so far. We've all been quite lucky so far. So fingers crossed this weekend doesn't change that.
I think actually, like, the only thing I worry about is getting the story wrong. Getting the details of that world wrong. Was it, am I right? Yeah. And that's my biggest fear. Apart from that, I think I'm quite fun. I'm just happy to be here. I'm just glad it.
I mean, with so many shows together, I think we all sort of recognise when we've run out of things to say. If I run out of answers, I think Finn would know when to jump in. Yeah, maybe. Maybe it was like, you're not going to help me this weekend. Okay.
Yeah, I find that, you know, since I've been doing conventions, I've kind of learned that I guess the convention world began with the people who were interested in the stories of comics coming together in garages and in people's houses, and that's what a convention was, you know, people just getting together to actually analyze the stories. So I guess what's happening with the growth of all of these Comic-Cons is that you're getting all the talent, all the directors, all the people who are actually involved in what's now become the manifestation of those stories into film and television series. And I guess it's just a bigger analysis, you know. You come here and people will ask, you know, I mean, I'd love to ask the Game of Thrones guys a lot of questions, you know. And I guess, you know, maybe the same in terms of, you know, my experiences on The Hobbit with Peter Jackson doing green screen and stuff like that. But, you know, it's just that analysis, you know, getting even more information out of the source. And I think that's kind of like, it's our job, you know, it's become our job with these conventions to actually come along and help in that process. And it's good to get in front of the people, you know, because that's the litmus test. I mean, we can sit here and do all the press and PR and make out that we're celebrities or whatever, but that doesn't really matter at a convention, because the convention is more about you looking at just another person who's inquisitive and actually answering questions and relating to that person. It's an interesting process.
I'm actually used to going to conventions for Vampire Diaries and just having teenage girls screaming when you say anything. So this is my first Ringcon. I might actually have to do some work before I go on stage tomorrow, because the audience may not be impressed with the sound of my voice. So it'll be a challenge. I'll let you know. I can answer that question tomorrow afternoon much better. But yeah. Hopefully there will be at least 3 teenage girls in the audience tomorrow that will give some sort of wave or acknowledgement of my existence. Tom Harbour.
Yeah, I've been to a few cons, especially around Europe and Australia, and the biggest difference with this one I've noticed is that a lot of the guests who come stay in the same hotel, which is a major thing. I didn't realise that all these different guests would be here, so it's quite cool to see everyone in the same place. Apart from that, with the stage fright thing, I guess as actors, most of us are used to being in front of people in various environments. So the weird thing for me is I don't particularly enjoy being like myself in front of a lot of people. I like being a character in front of a lot of people, but I tend to shy away, so it's kind of different for me to be in front of a lot of people just being me, so it's kind of different, but yeah.
Well, besides being a raping, plundering Viking, as you said, I'm a virgin on a con, so ask me that question
It's
tomorrow.
gonna hurt, bro. It's
yeah.
gonna hurt.
I'm prepared, baby. I'm prepared. Ask me the question again tomorrow, but right now I'm just shocked, thrilled, and happy being here.
Well, I'm like my Viking friend. I'm a virgin to cons.
The first time I was here on stage 4 years ago, I guess it was, I had a big plan mapped out what I'm going to do. Like, I don't know, tons sheets of paper, telephone, book full of stuff that I want to do. I went on stage, I forgot everything. I forgot my name, I forgot where I live, how my father looks, anything. I just forgot it. That's me. And then I started talking about something, at least to get it going. And the first thing that crossed my mind was, I don't know why, the fact that when I was in the bathroom in the hotel room and I tried to rip the toilet paper, it wouldn't rip, but it unrolled completely, like Peter Sellers. And I was watching that unrolling, and that was the first thing I said, and doing it in a little stand-up kind of way. And then there was 800 people laughing, and suddenly everything came back. Yeah. So, thanks to the toilet paper of Ringcon, that you can't drip. Yeah, that was my first experience on stage, and after that it all went smooth 4 years ago. So, just me.
Two questions, one for the Northmen and one for Manu. I start with the Northmen. Thank you for this nice stories. We had yesterday a little interview, and it would be very great if you can share the story with your hairs from the set of Northmen, because it seems for me in my imagination you look a little bit like Catweasel, getting all this hair grown, you know. Please, if you can share this nice hairspray story for us all.
Well, when I arrived in South Africa, I had a beard which grew for a year, but my hairs were quite short, and so they asked me whether you want the wig or extensions. So I said, okay, I tried the extensions. So you sit there for 14 hours having those extensions done, and then they give you like 3-4 products. Like, this is the shampoo, this is the conditioner, this is the softener, this is the something. Guys, sorry, you expect me to play a Viking, and now you want me to like shampoo, conditioner, soften my hair. So that's not going to happen, and I decided not to wash the hair at all, which worked. It looks like that.
How long has it taken to gain all this, and how hard was it for you, or how easy, to getting in this perfect shape?
You know, I don't think they're going to go out there and cast people that they see in the auditions who they don't think are already sort of somewhere in the field of what they need. So, you know, I was already a very sort of athletic, and I'd done a couple of movies with the WWE prior to doing Spartacus, and I was actually cast to play a UFC fighter called Mark Kerr, but that movie fell over when Van Damme didn't show up on a set. And so, you know, I was pretty physical before I went into Spartacus, and you know, it was just part of the game was to be at the top of your game, you know what I mean? So we had this thing called Gladiator Boot Camp that we'd do every year prior to going on set. And I don't know about you boys in games and stuff like that, but you guys do a lot of sword training with all your guys, and you get together and sort of get it ramped up before you start filming?
Yeah.
You go a few weeks beforehand just to get all
like the boot camp thing.
Yeah, because there'd be nothing worse than getting on set and people wouldn't know each other, and it'd be kind of like, you know, I mean, all that stuff is very specific, you know, the fighting stuff, you know, these swords they might be prop swords, but still they're swinging close to people's eyes and, you know, stuff like that. I mean, I remember once when we first started Spartacus, they made rubber swords, but they had wooden shields with metal on them. And I was swinging that shield as much as I was swinging the sword. And I had one scene with Andy Whitfield, and I had to spin around in a circle and put the shield out of his head, and he was meant to step back. And I said to the producers, I said, listen, or the director, I said, listen, this is a dangerous weapon, and we should be addressing the shield as much as we should be addressing the swords. And they said, oh, he'll be right, he'll be right. Anyway, as I spun around, the velocity of it broke one of the straps that was holding the shield to my wrist, and it flayed off and hit Andy Whitfield, our lead actor, in the head, and gave him a gash down the side of his eye. The next morning, we had rubber shields. Like automatically, it was, yeah. But you know, I mean, the whole physical side of it is, you cast because you're already within that genre. But you know, it was definitely a special show in terms of the amount of physical work we had to do. It was almost like a professional sport, you know, as well as an acting job. No worries.
Kannst du mich noch daran erinnern, wann du erfahren hast, dass du jetzt MC bist und wie du reagiert hast? Bist du aufgeregt? Also erster MC.
Also Dirk hat damals angerufen. Ich warte auf mich. Hallo. Dirk hat damals angerufen. Und hat mich gefragt, ob ich mir vorstellen könnte, den Job als MC zu übernehmen. Und jetzt geht's. Und am Telefon habe ich dann gesagt, so, ach, ja, ich überleg's mir mal. Und ja, das war von der FedCon, weil die FedCon dieses Jahr durfte ich ja auch schon moderieren. Dieses Jahr bin ich nicht ganz so aufgeregt, denn ich habe einen Profi an meiner Seite, die Lori, und das klappt alles. Danke für die Frage, ich habe eine Frage bekommen.
Ja, danke schön. Hi. This is a question to Manu. Talking about Spartacus being a special show. Were there ever moments when you read the script and thought, hell no, I'm not going to do that, and found the challenge really rewarding in the end?
Yeah, the nudity was sort of an issue that was raised by a lot of people. You know, a lot of people sort of, Andy Whitfield pulled out of doing nude shots altogether. As a matter of fact, there was one shot where I went down. It was early on in the season, I think it was episode 3, and Andy Whitfield and I, as Spartacus and Crixus, were brought down in front of Alithea and Lucretia and Navia. And we were brought down and we were both meant to drop ourselves to gallery and be naked in front of them, so they would observe us. And I got down there and Andy wasn't there, and somebody said, no, Andy doesn't want to do the scene like this. So I had to do it on my own, but I chose to do it because I thought that it was very important to show that at slavery level, you're just a piece of meat. But the one thing that was very difficult about it was in the middle of winter, and so it was freezing cold, so I was about to show my fella to the whole world, and I swear to you I couldn't get any leverage whatsoever. It was that cold. So I was saying to the director, please, can you not, you know, what are we doing with this shot, you know, like how much of it's going to stay there, you know, and he promised me he'd go up and pan to it, they'd drop the side of the go, then they'd pan off and go to one of the characters or something. It just so happens a couple of months later, one of the directors was on set and he had the loose cut of that particular scene on his computer, and I watched it. And the camera didn't go anywhere. I mean, you could have gone and made a cup of tea and come back. And I was still standing completely naked in front, and it was just not flattering, right? So I rang up my manager. We got in touch with the producers, and there was a rule made from that point on that you'd not have a nude front on for more than, I think it was 2.5 seconds. But it sort of set the premise really early on in our show. But you know, I mean, there was stuff in our show that was always pushing the envelope. I went to the premiere of The Wolf of Wall Street in New York. You know, with all the DiCaprio and all those guys were there, and I was pretty starstruck. And I was walking around, and I saw Martin Scorsese come into the after party, and I ran over and I just sat down right next to him. And I sat on his wife's knee, actually. And he went, "You're sitting on my wife's knee." And I said, "Well, I guess that makes us family, doesn't it?" And then he's like, "Where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from New Zealand." And he said, "Oh, you know, are you from New Zealand? Are you an actor?" And I said, "Yeah, I did the show Spartacus." Martin Scorsese went, "You're in Spartacus?" I was like, "Yeah." Yeah. He goes, "Oh man, you played Crixus," and I was like, "Yeah, I played Crixus." Yeah. And he said his wife and his daughter. And then he said to me, the reason why he did that scene where the guy snorted the cocaine out of, you know, Leonardo snorted the cocaine out of the girl's backside. He said the reason he did that scene was because of Spartacus. He said that when he saw Spartacus, he knew he could push the envelope completely, and I mean, that was pretty you know, exciting stuff hearing that come from his mouth. But you know, I guess our show kind of did do a bunch of stuff that wasn't there beforehand. And, it was good to be a part of it.
I have another question, and it's for Finn. You see Loris and Oberyn flirting, and what do you think would happen if Loris went to Dorne with Oberyn if he still lived?
Probably have great sex, probably fight a lot, live a good life. Grow some vegetables, yeah. I don't know if he went to, he'd probably really enjoy it actually. He'd be out at King's Landing, he'd be out harm's way. He wouldn't have to deal with all the politics of his family. And yeah, he'd probably just spend all day sparring, fucking, and drinking wine. Yes, that's great.
For all of you, what do you do in the time you have to wait on film set? I know Stephen Amell from Arrow is a great Facebook lover. He plays much things on Facebook. And what do you do?
I read a book.
Yeah, I read a lot.
Yeah. I read a book, or depending on what's going on in the scene, I try and...
There we go, I read a book. And depending on what's going on in the scene, I either try and interact with whoever I'm working with, or I'll try and shut myself off from everyone else. Depending on what's going on. If I need to listen to some music to help me get into it, that's what I'll do. But yeah, I mean, I most of the time just read a book.
Yeah, I read a book too. It's the best way to shut people out, you know, have that boring small talk. There's nothing worse than being on set and having to chat to loads of people about, you know, just how's your day been. So I just get a book out.
So what books are you reading?
I just read a really great book called Momo by Michael Ende. He did a different story.
Woo. And I'm reading a book. I'm reading a book called Shantaram.
Oh, you're reading Shantaram? Oh, I've read that. That's what it is.
I usually watch Finn reading. That's usually what I do. No, but it depends on the scene, it depends on what's going on set. As Alfie said, if you need to be involved with people, then you get involved with people. If you want to shut yourself out, then you shut yourself out. I like to sleep. If there's any time, I sleep. That's what I do. I like to shut my eyes and sleep.
Yeah, sleeping's coming in. I spend most of my time on Thrones, trying to wind up John Bradley actually. That's most of my time spent on that show. What about you, Christian?
I like to learn my lines. Well, I like to spend the time learning my lines. Isaac's kind of annoying, so in a good way. Isaac's the child I act with, and he's always sort of poking me and singing songs at me and stuff, so I try to sort of shut myself off before I kill him. But no, he's a great kid. He really is. So yeah, I have to shut myself off in the trailer. After that.
God, we're all such neighbours, aren't we? Reading books, shutting myself off in the trailer. I'm just laughing.
You're not really sorry.
I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that you can do, of course. I usually just try to write stuff. Getting a bit of writing. Otherwise, just analysing scripts. What we do or what we're coming up to. I actually like going back onto the set now and hanging out with some of the guys in the different departments. Sort of just trying to have a look at how everything else works. And getting to know my crew a little bit better. I don't know, I used to be of the nature of not talking to my crew at all, like when I first started acting, I'd sort of go on set and not really converse too much with the crew. But now I actually find that making friends with everybody on the crew, actually just getting involved with everybody and showing interest in what they do, because they show so much interest in what you do. If you turn around, you can learn something, but best of all, you can actually create really good friendships. And I find that with your really good friends with the people on your crew, you love your job. So it's a good thing to spend time with them.
I like to search out actors that are reading books and start meaningless small talk.
I actually, as an actor, I actually am really grateful being on set. So I actually just enjoy if I'm not in the scene, I'll actually sit and watch what the other actors are doing, and the whole process of being in a show is the reason I got into acting in the first place. So when I'm working on a show, I actually am there for most of the day if I'm not even in the scenes. So a majority of my time is just spent on set, and like Manu says, I think it is really important that you get to know the people that you work with, the crew that you work with. They're the ones that actually they look after you very often, and if you have a good relationship with your wardrobe or your ADs, they really do take care of you. And sometimes even with the camera operators, they'll give you little tips that if you sort of lean to your left or you lean to your right, you're going to get a better shot for the edit. So as an actor, I'm just so grateful to be on set. So I spend as much time I can be, until they kick me off.
I can't really answer the question. It completely depends on the film you do. On set, for example, on Northmen, I was constantly, I think, I went to bed with my bow. I think our producer changed the room 3 times because he heard this the whole night because I was shooting from the bed arrows against the curtain to practice. So on the next film, the last film I've done in France, in French, so I constantly repeated just the French lines to get along with this. In the last international productions, I'm German, so if I have a conversation like this, of course you hear the accent, but I'm not allowed to have the accent on film, so it depends on the film, and most of the time I just enjoy it, like a little child, being able to do that. Especially in Northmen, there's this little child in you, playing cowboy and Indians all his life, and now you may do that on a professional background, such a great team, so it's just thrilling.
Well, for me, it's kind of a mix, like everyone said here.
Well, having experienced both, which is the waiting until you get in front of the camera at this German equivalent of Saturday Night Live that I was in a couple of years back, 100 years back. I tried to read, and it didn't work, because every time I got into the story, somebody would ask something, or you would have to go to wardrobe, or you do whatever, or have to do something else, and then you would try to get back into it, so I quit that. And the other thing is that I experienced when I started directing, that it's just crazy how different actors can be in spending their time between being in front of camera. It's just crazy, because when you're directing, you get to deal with all of you, and it's just crazy. And when we were shooting Mara and the Firebringer, I had Eva Habermann, the Siggin, and she tends to spend her entire day on set having ideas what she could change. It's just crazy. You know, Tommy, I had this idea and I just Googled this Norse words up and I learned them. Can I use that? No, you can't. Well, I Googled something else. No! It's just crazy. It's totally crazy. On the other hand, you have people like Jan-Josef Liefers, who is like the biggest joker on set, like anytime. And you have Christoph Maria Herbst, who's very concentrated and barely wants to get out of character. And I remember having to work with Olli Dietrich, you may know from RTL Samstagnacht, who did this Zwei Stühle, eine Meinung, yeah, these spoof talk situations. And he used to get into the characters that he would portray on Friday in front of the camera as early as on Tuesday. So you'd have Adolf Hitler from Tuesday till Friday. Every time, in the canteen, in the war, every time. It's like, good morning, Ollie. Guten Morgen! It was hilarious, but in the end, I mean, it proved him right, and he was a great Adolf. He would have been a great, I mean, not great in the sense of, oh, forget it. He was funny as Adolf, that's the best thing to say.